Today I'm going to talk to you about writing a literature review, and this is a brief introduction. If you want more resources on the topic, I'll give a link at the end of this video that will send you to a guide through the Nichols Library with more videos and guides on writing literature reviews. I'm going to start with talking about what a literature review is and what it is not, because new scholars often have the misconception that a literature review is an annotated bibliography. And while it's true that the two documents are similar, they are different in one essential way, which is who they are written for. An annotated bibliography is typically written for either the writer, the researcher, so that they can keep notes and prepare themselves to write a longer article, or for your professor to show that you've done that kind of work. Whereas a literature review is something different. It is a piece of writing that takes a broad view of articles, books, and other literature in an academic field to discuss the current knowledge, research, and methodology in that field, identify the gaps in that knowledge, research, or methodology, and demonstrate that the writer understands the field. Instead of writing for the writer or for their professor, this is a document that shows that a researcher is ready to enter a scholarly conversation. If you walked up to a table and you saw a group of people talking about a topic, you wouldn't want to budge in and make a comment that shows that you weren't knowledgeable about what they were talking or writing about. Instead, you'd want to sit down and have an understanding of what everyone was saying. And writing a literature review is doing just that. It's showing other people that you understand the topic and that you understand what the gaps in knowledge are so that you can then contribute to that knowledge. So here's some tips for writing your literature review. The first one is make sure your topic is appropriate in scope. Make sure that it is the right size. And I like to talk about the Goldilocks principle. Goldilocks, when she was in the Three Bears house, wanted something that wasn't too hot or too cold. It was just right. When it comes to picking a topic, you want a topic that's not too big, because that would be too hard to tackle and include too much research to review. An example of this, if you tried to write on eating disorders among adolescents. This is a huge topic. The body of literature would be so huge, it would be really hard to tackle that. On the other hand, a topic could be too small. For example, if you were just writing about eating disorders in your neighborhood, there might not be anybody there. That's kind of an extreme example, but a topic can be too small to fully engage with and not provide enough research to review. A topic that's just right is the sort of topic that is thorough and engaging and includes the appropriate number of articles to do in a literature review. Tip number 2. Think critically while doing your research. And a couple of things fall under this. As you're doing your research, you're going to want to be synthesizing, making connections between the articles. Here's the ways you can do that. The first is, it is good to keep notes, and one of the ways that you can keep notes is through that annotated bib or some sort of bib. That's also a great way to keep your citations so that you can easily make your works cited page or your references page at the end of the paper. It's also good to make lists, mind maps, or other brainstorming techniques. This will help you to synthesize the relationship between articles to better understand them. And it's great to pull quotes from articles that you may need to summarize or refer to later. These lists will all help you when you sit down to write. You won't feel like you don't know what to write about. You know that you're writing about these things. It's also good to generate searches that are thorough and really take a wide view of the field you're looking at. In order to do this, you'll need to do some reading in the field. You'll need to consider the terminology used in the field. What words and phrases are essential to your subject? How do scholars use them? And how do they use them differently sometimes? So for example, if you're writing about adolescence, you might also think about using the word juvenile or young adult. You might see if scholars use those terms differently. You want to definitely do searches on both so that you can see all the articles that are out there. And that's called varying your search terms, using synonyms or other ways of thinking about a topic or other areas of the topic to try to get a comprehensive look at the research available. It's also good to ask questions once you find that research to understand the research that's out there. So a couple questions you might want to ask. What are the most important findings so far in your field? You want to take a note of those findings, take a note of who is doing the research in the field and what they're seeing out there. Why or how is the article or book that you're looking at important? Make sure you understand that you get why each publication you read is important. It's also good to look and see who is citing who within the field. If there's an article that's been cited, 80 times, that article might be a bigger, more important article than one that's been cited 2 times, or that just might mean that the one that's been cited 2 times is more narrow in scope, but it's good to pay attention to those things. Finally, what research or knowledge is missing? You want to point out the gaps in the research where you or others need to fill the blanks. This is one of the big goals of a literature review. Once you understand what the forest looks like, you can say where you need to grow new trees. It's a metaphor for once you understand what knowledge or research is out there, you can understand where researchers need to come in and do more research. Tip number 3, choose a coherent structure to present your information. Just like writing any paper that you might have done in any time during your years as an academic, you're going to want to have an introduction, a body, and conclusion for writing your literature review. In your introduction, you'll want to give the context of what you're researching, identify what you're researching, maybe talk about some of the foundational articles or books in that specific field. Your body I'll get to in a second, but your conclusion is the place where you might want to then point out the gaps in research. You might want to point out and synthesize what you learned from looking at your field. As for the body of your paper, you might want to think about how you're organizing that. There's a couple of different ways, and I've listed 4 of them here, although this is not comprehensive. You can organize your review chronologically, based on the date the articles you found were published. You can organize it according to theme, the themes or subjects of the research you found. You can organize it according to the methods used in the different studies. And also, once you start looking at academic research, you'll find out that academic research often follows trends, so you can organize your literature review according to those trends. Those are a couple of tips to writing your literature review. If you need more resources, check out our guide on writing a literature review at nichols.libguides.com/literature review. There you'll find that we have a couple of series of videos and resources. One of them is from Scribber and talks about what a literature review is, and then has several videos that are all embedded in our guide on writing the literature review, the process. It breaks it down step by step. It's very in-depth. There's a video by the Writing Center at Ashford University that has a very comprehensive look at writing literature review. They also have some sample literature reviews and other information, and there's other sample literature reviews in that guide. Don't forget, you can always get in touch with us. Email us at el.reference@nichols.edu, or give us a ring if you ever need help with your research or your literature review. Thanks for watching.